have stayed static. Our current education systems were designed and built in the industrial age. In some countries, that's as long ago as the 18th century. Sure, there have been many subtle changes over the decades, but the basic goal of our school systems has remained exactly the same for over 200 years. And what is that goal? To produce obedient factory workers. During the industrial era, and right up to the epoch of the 21st century, most people worked in manufacturing, whether it was on production lines, on farms, or in mines, where things like creativity and individuality only get in the way of profits. Factory owners needed obedient drones in large numbers, and so many wealthy business owners invested large sums of money into lobbying to influence politicians to shape the school systems in the ideologies of said factory owners, putting values such as order and discipline as top priority, and making sure that creativity and individualism were quashed. Such lobbying happened mostly in America, but nevertheless, the school systems in most developed countries today are still built on the same robotic and stale ideologies. And so, kids today arrive at school nice and early, not a minute too late. We are ordered to sit down in our pre-designated seats, because God only knows what utter chaos would unravel if we were to sit where we pleased. We are programmed to respond to a series of bells and whistles that signify when we are allowed to eat and leave. We have to ask permission to speak, to move, to go to the bathroom. This used to be kind of okay, because this forced obedience would carry over to the factory floor, which is where most people ended up anyway, right after school. But today, and for quite some time now, we have been living in a world where most people can do whatever they desire for a career, if they try hard enough. I mean, you can actually be a professional bed warmer, a pet food taster, or a raven master. Yes, these are all real jobs. The nature of jobs has changed drastically, and today we live in a world where qualities such as creativity, individualism, and entrepreneurialism are highly sought after by a lot of employers. Let me ask you a question. How come, if you're bad at English, maths, or science, you're repeatedly told you're not trying hard enough? Your work is scrutinised, your parents are notified of your poor performance, you're made to resit tests until you get it right. Yet, if you're bad at art, music, or sport, you're simply told, don't worry, it's just not your thing. Despite these all being just as valid career choices. The huge fact of life that modern school systems ignore is that everyone has their own unique talents and things that they are really passionate about. We're all naturally good at something, and terrible at other things, whether that's because of our genetics or our upbringing. Some children are just more creative, whilst others are more academic. We're all unique. Albert Einstein supposedly wrote, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." The human brain's ability and desire to learn is astonishing, and yet it is possible for almost anyone to learn anything. I'm not saying that every child shouldn't learn mathematics, because every child can. But where most school systems fail is in bringing out the best in every child and encouraging exploration of their natural abilities. But the really stupid thing is that schools don't even do a decent job of teaching English, maths and science. In fact, they do a rather terrible job indeed. Public education today is based on a system of taking a bunch of information and systematically reciting that information to the students, whom are later tested on their ability to remember that information. And the key point here is that exams only test a child's ability to remember. So, weeks before your exam, you would recite the same textbook information over and over again until you had near enough the entire textbook memorised. But what happens after the exam? You forget it all. Multiple studies have shown that children and adults forget 95% of everything that they memorise after just 3 days. So an A-star test score says no more about a child than their ability to recite information. It is not a strongly correlated representation of actual intelligence, that is the ability to acquire new skills of one's very own accord.